Buying a home may ultimately end up being one of the most difficult financial decisions you may ever have to make. So in today's video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna compare buying versus renting. It's a question that comes up all the time. Should I rent a home? Should I buy a home? Especially when it's your first home. This may be the first time you're leaving your family. You've been living there for 20 plus years potentially, and now you're 25, 30 years old and you want your own place. Potentially you've saved up some money. You've got a down payment ready for either your rent or to purchase a home. So in today's video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over the benefits of renting, the benefits of buying. And we're gonna start off with renting. And in the case of renting, one of the biggest points of appeal is the flexibility. If you're renting a property, you only have to abide by the contract that you've signed. If you have a 1-year lease with the landlord, at the end of that 1-year term, you can walk away from the property. There's no additional funds that need to be changing hands between you and the landlord, and you can find a new place if you're not satisfied with that current place. If you are month to month, you only have to give the landlord a 60-day notice when you're terminating your contract. So if you're the type of person that has a lot going on and maybe you change jobs frequently, you move from spot to spot, and you're not somebody who likes to sit still, then maybe the flexibility is something that's very attractive for you when it comes to renting a property. Now, the second attractive thing if you're looking to rent a property is the lower initial costs. If you are gonna rent a property, typically you need to come up with first and last month's rent up front. So let's say you are renting a condo for $2,500 a month. You need to have $5,000 that's given to the landlord to cover the first and last month's rent. And that is all you need to actually get into a property. You do need to submit some documentation, whether it's your credit score, some job history, previous landlord information, so they can call them and verify you are a good tenant if this is your second property or third property. But other than that, financially, you just have to have your first and last month's rent ready to go. So getting into a rental financially is a lot easier than accumulating a down payment to actually purchase a home. Before we get into the next couple positives of renting opposed to buying, my name is Mike Carpino, and if you want to discuss real estate a little bit more in depth with me, click the first link in the description. I have a 30-minute client consultation where we can just chat about what is going on in the real estate market and what makes sense for you. Maybe we're having this exact same conversation that we're going over today, buying versus renting a property. And after our consultation, if you, like many others from YouTube, feel like you want to work with me to get into the real estate market, I would absolutely love to help you. Now, the next thing that we need to talk about here is the financial stability of renting versus buying. If you are renting a property, your expenses are very minimal. You have your rent, you have your minimal utilities, and sometimes those utilities are actually covered by the landlord. So you are able to look at your financial statements at the end of every month and really understand that they will be, for the most part, pretty flat and pretty consistent from month to month. If you own a home, there's a lot of other variables that you're gonna have to consider, whether it's your heat, your hydro, your water. Those bills will fluctuate. You have property taxes that you have to pay. You have home insurance that you have to pay, all on top of your mortgage, depending on if you choose a fixed or a variable rate mortgage. Now, the next thing that I think is important, and probably one of the more common reasons why people choose to rent instead of buy, is the maintenance-free living. What I mean by that is if you are renting a property and something goes wrong, if there's a leak in the roof, if there's a repair that needs to be done, you as the tenant reach out to your landlord and they are obligated to do the repair, which is amazing. It doesn't cost you any additional money, and it's a big cost savings if you have issues that come up that are very costly. If you're a homeowner, if something breaks, it's your responsibility to fix that. Otherwise, it's gonna damage your home. Let's say you own a home and you have a roof leak. What are you gonna do? You have to pay for that repair as soon as possible to make sure that the water does not cause any serious damage to the rest of your property. So we've gone over what I think are some of the real positives for people who are deciding to rent. Now, the last thing I wanna mention, if you are thinking of renting, and one of the main reasons that might be is your situation in life. Where are you? Are you thinking of living with a friend? Are you maybe in a new relationship with somebody and you want to test out what it's like to live with them? I would definitely suggest you go that rental route before you invest in a property with somebody else. The last thing you want to do is invest in a property with your best friend or a new girlfriend or boyfriend. And the last thing you want to do is have to sell that house. If things don't end amicably, it's just going to put you in a situation that you could have ultimately avoided for a 1-year rental contract. So So now that we've covered a lot of what the positives are if you are going to rent instead of buy, let's dive into what the benefits are of actually buying a property. The first and most important thing is if you are buying a property, you are building equity in your own home. If you were to buy a property for $500,000, you have to put down the minimum down payment, which is 5% in Ontario, which would be about $25,000. If you do not have this minimum down payment, this is where people get stuck in a rock and a hard place. If they want to buy something and they don't have that down payment, you might get pushed towards that rental side. But if you have the down payment, maybe you want to start building equity sooner rather than later. Building equity is amazing, and unlike rent, you're not necessarily throwing it away. If you can justify buying something, you are paying down your mortgage every single month, and that amount you're paying down your mortgage is going to vary depending on the mortgage type that you have and the payment frequency that you choose. But you are paying down a mortgage, whereas rent, you are essentially throwing your money away. Sometimes it's okay to throw a little bit of money away, but you have to look at the big picture. If you're investing in real estate, likely it's for the long term. You don't want to buy something real estate wise and think about selling it in 2, 3, or 4 years. That's not going to put you in a positive situation. If that's the case, you might want to decide to rent. But if you are looking at it long term, if you want to climb that real estate ladder from a condo to a townhouse to a detached home and really use real estate as a vessel for your investment and growing your net worth, then this is a reason why a lot of people get into real estate. The second reason why people will buy instead of rent is the stability of knowing where you're going to be and where your roots are set. Let's say you have 2 kids. Let's say you've got a husband and a wife who are both working, but their jobs are potentially part-time or they're not as consistent. Maybe they're self-employed. What if the landlord calls you and tells you that he's hoping to sell the place? Maybe you're only on a month-to-month contract, which means they only have to provide you 60 days notice. If you own a home, this is not a risk that you are ever going to have to incur. So this is an invaluable risk. Ultimately, this could be the main reason why most people choose to buy instead of rent if they have the money to do so. So they understand that they can never be uprooted by the actual owner of the property. The third but smaller reason is there are some tax benefits when you are buying a home. So some people might see this as a great opportunity for them to have some additional write-offs when it comes to doing their taxes. Maybe they're self-employed, maybe they need a home office. So that is something to always consider when you are buying a home as well. Although when you are renting a property, there's still some tax benefits that you can take advantage of. And the next thing is the potential for the real estate market to grow. If you buy a home for $500,000 and it grows 2% year over year, in 5 years, your home could potentially be worth $50,000 to $55,000 more than it was worth when you purchased it. If you're renting something, you have zero ability to gain any equity or any growth or any profit or anything from that other than just having a roof over your head and having the ability to move quicker if needed. So the ability in a market where we're currently seeing things be very slow, if you buy something today, the potential for growth when it picks up is pretty strong. Ultimately, this is a financial decision that can change the course of your financial future. Make sure you talk to an expert like myself, like a financial advisor, like your parents to figure out what makes sense for you financially, what are your long-term goals before you jump into investing into real estate or before you start to dump your money into a rental and throw away your potential down payment that you could have bought something with. Some people, renting makes the most sense. And for myself, I rented for 2 years before I got into the real estate market to make sure my situation made sense. And for some others, they will not ever rent. They want to buy immediately as soon as they possibly can. You've got to know your situation to figure out what makes sense. Let me know in the comment section down below, would you rent or would you buy in this real estate market today? What did you do first? Did you rent a property first or did you buy a property first when you moved out of your parents' home? Thanks so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.